such a fragile thing, I know. And with the winter comes the ice, the snow, but I'm here to hold. No, my love, don't worry about the cold just yet. The trees haven't started to shed.
In today's video, I'm going to talk about my recent motorcycle crash. You may have seen the short, you may have seen it on Instagram, but today I want to spend some time talking about it. There's a pattern to how bad decisions compound, and motorcycle crashes are a perfect case study. There are small rituals that feel larger than the things they surround. This is how I ended up unconscious, wrapped in barbed wire in the veld near Heidelberg.
My love, the seasons come and they go, but I hope you know that I won't.
My uncle once told me, many years ago, while he was preparing his pipe, he said to me, the anticipation of building the pipe, cleaning it, packing it, lighting it, was as enjoyable as smoking it itself. That anticipation was its own reward. I can understand that. I once read that drug addicts get a dopamine hit during the preparation of their vice. Before they even take the drug, there's a dopamine hit. As a rider, the week before a ride is pure dopamine for me. I pull the bike out the garage, remove the covers, give it a once over, maybe give it a wash. Make sure that everything is properly prepared. Cleaning the exhaust, oiling the chain, checking the battery voltage, and then the electronics, charging the cardo, formatting the SD card for the X4, cleaning up the GoPro's waterproof case from the previous ride. Everything is part of the ritual. It is the anticipation that builds through the preparation of this. But here's the problem. When you've invested mentally in a ride, cancelling the ride becomes very difficult, even impossible. Even though sometimes you know you should. Sometimes you need to take a step back and reassess the situation. This is a story of a string of small, not quite wrong decisions that together produce something much worse than any one of them could on their own. It is not a tale of a one catastrophic mistake. It is a lesson in how momentum and habit blur the edges of judgment. The story illustrates something important about decision making under uncertainty. We think disasters happen because of one big mistake, but they're usually cascading failures, small compromises that seem reasonable individually. In this video I'm talking about a series of unfortunate decisions that led me to crashing the bike in the sand near Heidelberg at 4:15 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon. It wasn't one mistake. That would oversimplify things too much. Let me tell you the story what happened from the beginning. Thursday, before the ride, Alon posted on our WhatsApp group that he was looking for a partner to ride on Sunday. It was going to be a late start at 10:30 instead of the usual 7 a.m. departure. After weeks of early mornings, the idea of sleeping in and still getting in a ride really appealed to me. At the meeting point, I met Alon on his Yamaha R1 and I met Doug for the first time. He was on BMW GS 1200 Tourer. The plan was simple: 140 kilometers to Oranjeville on the Val, have lunch and then back. After lunch, we decided on a longer scenic route back. The restaurant owner warned us about 12 kilometers of rough roads with lots of potholes, but he gave us good directions. We refueled in Villiers and started our way back on the N3 highway towards Judgement. As we approached the first off-ramp, Doug suggested an alternate route. To avoid the piece of highway with the toll gates and the trucks. See, for motorcyclists, many of you know this, toll gates are a genuine inconvenience. Removing your gloves and your helmet, finding your phone for payment, dealing with face recognition on your phone, then putting everything back while the boom gate counters down, or trying to find your card stuck in a wallet somewhere. Plus, it was 4 p.m. Sunday afternoon. The highway was packed. Lots of trucks. We also encountered a lot of crosswinds. This had us riding at angles. Mixing crosswinds and trucks is constantly judging the conditions. It was tedious, it was boring, it was unpleasant, although not dangerous. Doug found the R56 on his GPS. The road ran parallel to the highway. I vaguely remembered a similar road from the northern end, from the Heidelberg side, but I wasn't certain it was the same road. I thought it might be the road, and if it was a sand road, but I kept quiet. This is commitment bias in motion. The more you invest, the harder it becomes to admit that the investment was wrong. When the road turned into sand after 5 kilometers, we faced clear decisions to make. Turn back immediately or continue with inappropriate motorcycles. 2 road bikes on sand, obviously problematic, but we'd already invested the time and the mental energy. The sunk cost fallacy kicked in. We've already come 5 kilometers. We can't waste the 5 kilometers we've just ridden. We've now come 10 kilometers. Now we definitely can't turn back. At each point, we chose the path requiring more commitment rather than cutting our losses. We were optimizing not for feeling foolish about previous decisions, but we were optimizing for good outcomes. since the R1 and the K12s on sand bikes. I volunteered to scout ahead on my adventure bike, planning to turn around if I found thick sand or any obstacles that would make crossing for Dylan and Doug impossible. After another 5 kilometers, the road kept veering away from the highway. I realized we weren't going in the right direction. I backtracked, found Dylan, then I found Doug. They already had their own problems. The R1 was overheating. R1s don't like riding 30-40 kilometers an hour. So we sped up and we stopped at an intersection close to a T-junction. We backtracked all the way, pretty much the last 5 kilometers that we rode. On the GPS we could see the road continued west for about 100 meters, then turned 90 degrees north for about another 200 meters, and then 90 degrees west, disappearing under the highway through a tunnel. It was 4:15 p.m. when I texted Bob. Rod and I have an agreement. If I don't specify the return time, I will be home before dark. At 4:15 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, still in Heidelberg and sand roads, I was starting to doubt that would happen. As a team, we agreed that if we didn't find toll within the next 5 to 6 kilometers, we would turn around. I went ahead to scout again. I remember taking the first 90-degree corner, but after that, nothing. Until one flash. Only one flash. My bike hitting a sand embankment. I saw 4 strands of barbed wire right in front of me, and I thought to myself, shit, this is going to hurt. The world unraveled into disjointed fragments for the next 5 minutes. A flash of barbed wire, a valley of sand, a sense of inevitable pain, and then darkness. When I came to, strangers were all around me. Dylan and Doug had flagged down a bakkie, loaded me and the bike into the bakkie, and I was driven to the Heidelberg hospital. I had concussion, cuts, and that peculiar hollow gratitude of surviving something close. Nothing serious, considering I'd gone through a barbed wire fence. Dylan later said he watched my bike somersault and me do a couple of flips before landing on my back. I was unconscious for about 5 minutes, but I'd lost at least 15 minutes worth of memory. At this stage, I had to call Brian. Within an hour, she walked through the ER room doors. I had a flashback to a similar situation playing itself out in 1987-ish. She came to visit me in the hospital in Alberton after I'd flipped my GPZ 1100. I still miss that bike. So what went wrong? It started with me pushing through to do a ride despite having a cold for 2 weeks. The dopamine rush of the anticipation overrode my caution. We left a perfectly predictable highway with measurable risks for unknown sand roads. When we realized these bikes weren't suitable for the sand, we should have turned back. But every kilometer invested made turning back harder. First 5, then 10, then 15. The sunken cost fallacy on 2 wheels. As a newcomer to the group, I felt peer pressure to go with the flow instead of speaking out about my concerns. When the road went in the wrong direction, we should have called it instead of trying another unknown route. Going ahead alone was probably the worst decision. When something unpredictable happened, no one saw what caused the crash. The interesting thing is that each individual decision seems defensible. Avoiding tolls, reasonable. Not wanting to seem difficult, understandable. Not wanting to waste the distance already travelled, natural human psychology. But reasonable individual decisions can create unreasonable aggravated risk. Each choice narrowed our options for the next choice. Until we committed to the path none of us would have chosen from the start. The fix isn't be more careful or ride safely. It is recognizing the pattern. When you're optimizing to avoid feeling foolish about previous decisions, you're probably making bad decisions. There is an elemental danger in the dopamine of anticipation. It narrows the field of vision. You feel the pull of the ride, and your capacity for prudence erodes. You tell yourself, very reasonably, that you'll turn back. If it gets nasty, we'll turn back. But by the time the cost of turning back becomes apparent, you've already invested 2 hours into it. The distance covered, the time covered, you're biased towards continuing. There are simple lessons here, and they're definitely worth repeating. First, don't let the ritual outvote your judgment. The joy of preparation is not a permit to ignore risk. Third, be conservative with unknown roads and unfamiliar places, especially when the local group includes bikes that are ill-suited for them. Finally, if you're not well, reconsider the plans you make. A tired, congested, or recovering body is slower to recover from mistakes and even slower to react to adverse road conditions. Barbed wire at the neck level could have been fatal. One severed artery and you bleed out in 3 minutes. A 220 kilogram GS 800 on your chest is just as catastrophic. Those are expensive school fees. Going forward, I won't be as accommodating. I'll think about my safety first. If I'm not comfortable, I won't do it. And I won't let the dopamine rush make decisions for me. Well, those are my thoughts on the matter. Let's leave it at that. Remember, when you're riding, watch out for potholes, sinkholes, and arseholes. Keep safe.
Oh my love, you're such a fragile thing, I know. And with the winter comes, yes, the snow, but I'm here to hold